Hello, it's Tuesday night. Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I'm not sure.
That's the most important part.
Now, I know, because we're on No Rest. We're with Noah John.
I'm myself.
Noah John is very famous around these parts.
Oh, yeah.
For,
I'm famous in this room.
well, all over the airwaves, you could say. I could say.
You could say other things.
What about in Sonora? Are you famous there?
No, I left Sonora.
Oh, that's right.
I was like an immigrant as a young child and moved to like America and never looked back. Like I left Sonora and I never looked back. Sonora, for people who don't know, is a neighborhood in Bali. You call it a neighborhood? A part of the island
District,
where
maybe?
my job is, where I lived for 2 years. But it generally tends to be a little bit more laid back, a little bit more quiet, a little bit more for the older retired family crowd, which is great.
They call it Snornua,
Yeah,
right?
so
It's
not
a
famous.
very quiet place. But it's a good place too.
No, very nice beaches.
Not much happens, which is good sometimes, even though not much has been happening around the whole island over the last few months.
The thing that I used to say about Sonora, and by used to, I made it up one week ago, was the only thing you're going to do after 8 p.m. there is bakso, which is like a meatball soup. Like that's the most exciting thing that's going to happen. You're not going to turn around the corner and all of a sudden it's a crazy party. When I lived in Saudi Arabia, I had to go to Taif. It's a city between Jeddah and Riyadh in the mountains. Very beautiful, but it was one of those things where we stayed in the hotel, and it was one of those things you'd walk into the hotel hallway, and you just absolutely knew nothing interesting was going to happen. Nobody was going to run out. There was not going to be a party. There's not going to be any loud music. It was like you are in the conservative country in the world.
Hell.
Yeah. So
Maybe.
So it reminds me of that a little. Not quite the same, obviously. Yeah.
What are we talking about? What happened last week?
Well, we can talk about this, but do you have anything from last week that you experienced in Sonora? See, if part of my job in this thing is to like report on social interactions, I'm really not going to do a good job because I have to work. So that's kind of your thing, but I do have some Bali centric news that we'll get to.
Yeah. What are we doing? Well, was it last week or the week before? I'm not sure now. That the local domestic market came to town. Mm-hmm. And also the COVID cases are on the way down. Apparently.
I saw that yesterday. They had more recoveries than new cases.
Yeah.
And the lowest number of daily in Jakarta in like 2 weeks.
In Jakarta, was it? Yeah, but here, definitely.
Sure.
Over the last couple of weeks, it's been heading down.
And Philippines overtook Indonesia and Southeast Asia as the country with the most cases.
Really?
So I don't know if that's a good sign for Indonesia or just a really bad sign for Philippines. But the news is better than it was. The news is better than it was.
Well, there's still not that many cases really around the whole place when you consider there's 270 million people.
Well, also in Indonesia, you're doing pretty good. Most of the, I don't know what you call them, regencies or kajas, the little villages, I guess you call it. A lot of them are going towards green, which is good, or already green. So let's not get ahead of ourselves yet, but it's looking better.
And the nightlife is actually starting to rock around town since last weekend. Places are definitely open a little bit later. I'm not sure how late they're supposed to be open, but I was at Red Ruby the other night and it closed at 3 o'clock, which was pretty late.
Did you stay all the way till 3?
Oh man, I'm there.
Wow.
You know how I am.
3 p.m. or a.m.?
Yeah. Well, I would have back in the day, but 3 p.m. But it was 3 a.m. Yeah, it was a good night.
Sounds like people are having a good time, but there's one guy who's not having a good time. I got this story here, which is from the SeminyakTimes.com. Seminyak is kind of a popular neighborhood around here. Do you have any background about the Seminyak Times?
Very popular news portal, I imagine. I've been doing it.
Yeah, right. So
started off as the Beat Daily 10 years ago.
Yeah, so the website that I'm getting this from is like your genesis.
Yeah, so we started that 10 years ago, and it's been quite popular. But I found recently I just got overwhelmed with all these COVID-19 stories, and I had to take a step back.
So I'm looking at like the web. I'm looking at the author, and the author is just says EC. And if
Joe Blogs.
If you click on his name, it just goes to an archive of all his her articles. Yeah. So there's not. I don't really know who's doing this. It could be a Russian bot. But this story.
There's a list of writers over there.
Oh well, I'm just saying right here.
But the reality now is it's just me because.
Did you write this story?
People were, because I get sources, so I sort of rewrite.
So you just like syndicate their news.
And there's a number of places where you get the source. It all comes from the local press.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So you don't read about this.
This is like a collating center for like news that you come across in Bali. I guess.
Yeah. Very local.
And the credit is given here to Delish.com originally. Okay. So
that's for the image, But down there,
okay.
in the story text somewhere, there'll be a link to the source stories.
Gotcha.
Not just one story, but possibly many.
I got you.
So,
okay,
yeah. Young guy, right?
So, 21-year-old American. He's from Puerto Rico, which you are American citizen, but let's be clear, it's not a state; it's a commonwealth. So you are American, but you can't vote, and you do not count in any election. And so yeah, 21-year-old American. With the initials, I love these stories. They always put the initials JOPDV. Juan. Whatever.
Well, you can find out what his name is in the source story. But I don't like. Well, we don't at the 78 Times. We don't like putting people's names until they're actually convicted.
No, that's fine. You know? I have no, and I've noticed that's an Indonesian thing. In Jakarta Post, they never put the full name. They just do the initials. It's the weirdest thing. Whatever.
But until they're convicted, they might get off free. That might have been.
I have no problem. I have no problem with
that.
Okay, so this guy was arrested on the 25th of June. We just found this just came to light at 11 a.m. for smuggling cannabis cake into Bali, which is not a good move, especially in a country with you can get the death penalty for drug use and drug trafficking. This story came out finally on August 4th, and he had attempted to smuggle the cake containing cannabis from Puerto Rico. The goods were sent by the mail, which is always great to put your name on a package.
Yeah,
with drugs in it.
Which isn't the first time that people have been nabbed down there.
I mean, I think people saw this in movies and thought it would actually work. The package containing the chocolate cake was inspected by customs. You think? When it arrived in Renan Post Office, which is a village outside of Sonor, we were just talking about, they then coordinated with the Bali police to investigate the matter. And this is one of my favorite things about Indonesia. Like, Indonesia is so classic. Like, it's only, Monday is the Independence Day, 75th anniversary of when they threw off the brutal Dutch and declared independence, which I would be reading about it this week. The way they declared independence was very cool. They wrote it the night before. It was a paragraph. They just declared the founding father, Sukarno, and Muhammad Atta, the vice president, and that was it. It was a paragraph. They read it over the air. They sent it internationally, and basically what the thing literally said was, all decisions will be coming very soon, and we will update you. Like, it wasn't a constitution. It was just.
They hadn't given it much thought?
Well, they just rushed it out. And then actually 1949 was when they actually got independence. But anyway, so it's the 75th anniversary. So it's a young country. And they always have these very formal, almost like 80s Mel Brooks type of pronouncements when they say these things. So, like, listen to this. Like, so here's the police officer. It was a traditional cake mixed with weed in Puerto Rico, USA. The cake weighed 130 grams, and the suspect claimed it was made by a family member and then sent to Bali. Like, it was a traditional cake mixed with weed. Like,
it's a very American cake.
It's just like kind of like older people who certainly don't use drugs, authority figures, just kind of trying to describe it to the general public. I just think it's so funny. The parcel contained cake, clothes, toys, and other items. It was suspicious of the contents. They conducted an in-depth examination. Dude, 130 grams. So what they're going to probably do is they're going to charge the guy with 130 grams. It could have been 10 grams of actual marijuana and then 120 grams of cake, but that's how they do it. Like, throw in the packaging and everything. The whole,
for
sure.
But that's not really a large cake, is it? 130
I mean,
grams.
I don't know about that, but it's
a
good amount of marijuana. And you know what's funny is that, I don't know if you read this part in it, the suspect had been in Bali for 6 months and came to the island to learn bamboo weaving. When we grabbed food last time after the show, the gentleman that was sitting a couple of seats over from us, isn't that what he said?
That he's weaving bamboos in
I could have sworn that's what he said. And that guy was nice. He was friendly. He was from Uzbekistan.
Yeah.
But, I mean, is that a thing going on here? Like, male basket weaving? Not that men can't weave baskets, but... maybe 2 times in a week I'm hearing this. First time I ever heard in my life.
Maybe it's a new front for some kind of
well, it didn't work.
Chocolate cake operation.
Arjaya, the police officer, said in a statement, to their knowledge, it was the first time someone had tried sending marijuana to Indonesia inside a cake. So, hey... groundbreaking, man!
First time.
Breaking the rules, breaking the mold.
And all those other chocolate cakes that have been arriving over the last month. No one bothered to check it.
Yeah, I mean, it's 75 years of a country. And it's the first time somebody sent a happy cake to Indonesia. My goodness. I like this one. Quote: the marijuana in the cake appears to be for self-consumption, as opposed to what? He's gonna cut slices and wrap it up in a napkin and sell it.
Goes on there, right?
And the data obtained after questioning, there was no indication the suspect was inviting anyone else to consume the cake. It's so official.
He's a bit.
This drug guy
is tight with his cake.
He's a bit tight with his cake, but he had no indication of inviting anyone else to consume. In other words, he just really loves weed, and he has no friends. The suspect told police he had been using marijuana for 2 years.
Mate, he definitely wasn't dealing the cake.
No. I mean, he's not gonna. He was not cutting up any pieces and sending it in Gojek.
Little
allegedly
plastic bags.
Because if I would talk to a police officer being accused of smuggling drugs, I would definitely tell him I was planning on selling it.
To him.
After discovering the cake, the officers immediately conducted a delivery. Oh, the officers delivered it. Oh, that's so good. If someone can find the video of that, if there is, I need to see that. The officer's like, delivery! Oh, yes, it's finally here. I've been waiting 6 months. My hands are so callous from this basket weaving. Finally, something to relieve my pain. Oh, hi, officer. So nice.
Yeah,
nice.
Undercover, no doubt.
No word on his punishment or what's going to go on. Poor guy. I mean,
no, he's charged under these things. It's the start of the case. We'll hear more about that later.
He's got a tough road ahead.
Yeah, because one of those clauses is, I think, it's trafficking or something.
Yeah, and listen, he was arrested by the National Narcotics Agency of Indonesia. Like, if there's a scarier sentence, I haven't heard it. Hi, who are you? I'm from the National Narcotics Agency of Indonesia. Got a minute?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Well, one of the people they shot in the firing squad a few years ago was smuggling marijuana only. It's not just hard drugs, but anyway. So
the comments in this are very stupid, also. Yeah. So not guys. Just if you're gonna come to Indonesia, if you're gonna come to Bali, if you're gonna come to pretty much any Southeast Asian country, you just don't do drugs. You just don't bring drugs. You want to drink alcohol, whatever, but it's not worth any risk. And I don't know what's going to happen to this guy, but when I was Googling this story and I was just kind of going down the rabbit hole, I mean, there's, like we talked about last time, there's just stories every 6 months, January 2019, December 2017, just 9 years, 6 years, 5 years, 14 years. And I mean, that's it for your life.
True, you don't want to get involved in it. Just leave it at home where you can do it legally, I guess.
I mean, imagine you've been in jail for 7 years, you get out. Where you been, man? I've been in Bali for 7 years. Oh, that's awesome. No, I was in prison.
Exactly. There are a number of Americans in prison here.
This guy.
The young couple that chopped up their mother or something, put them in a suitcase. People from Chicago.
Is that in a video game or that was real life?
That was real life. It's pretty amazing little story going on down there at one of the best hotels in Nusa Dua. St. Regis.
When chopped up their mother.
Oh, unbelievable.
On a vacation? Dude, these in-laws, man. These in-laws. Well, you know what?
They probably to get him money. Or
they were probably trying to have like a romantic weekend, and he's like, "Your mother's here," and she's like, "Keep it down in there." And then they did.
Yeah, they got rid of her. Anyway, we are going through a number of albums, right? Or we got something more to say there? Sorry.
Yeah, you want to talk about...
I was thinking maybe we could just sort of play, because we're going to go through this top 25...
top 15.
Is it top 15?
So,
of the last year, 2020, according to Pitchfork.
Pitchfork Media.
Which Pitchfork is one of the leading voices on indie or basically good music.
They've been around for a while. Pitchfork, and they had their highest rated albums of 2020. Again, this is not sales, this is just their rankings.
Yeah, from their, and no, it's actually from all the press, all the media press, that's out of 100 or something that they give on a CD or a record review, and they've calculated who's actually on top.
So we had like a little bit of a disagreement. Like I was going to go continually to kind of do articles about like popular music just to relate to the audience. And you said, it's kind of been done. Like maybe we want to kind of expose some new music. And then I kind of thought about it and I was like, yeah, that's a good point. And I'm glad that we did it because I listened to 4 or 5 of these albums and two of them, I thought the whole albums were excellent, and then the third one, I thought there was like 2 or 3 like really good songs, which I probably wouldn't have run across. So I'm glad that we did it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so you want me to start, or you want to start?
I'm just going to play one that was actually around 20 something or other, which Jesse.
Talk about it.
Jesse Ware. What's your pleasure?
Well, okay, never mind.
Okay,
go ahead.
From I think it says June 26th, so it's a pretty recent release.
Jesse Ware, where's your pleasure? That's a girl, dance pop, and it had an 83 score.
Yeah. It's disco actually. It's like as they describe in some of the reviews, they're like going into Studio 54 straight into disco world. And this girl's been around for a while doing electronic music, singing electronic music, and she's gone down this disco hole, and she's come up with this album, and it's really quite good. And this is a track off it, which I've got ready to go somewhere. Let's check. It's Jesse Ware. What is it? It's called Spotlight. It's off What's Your Pleasure? Yeah, we are on No Rest. It's Tuesday night with Noah John.
Hey now.
And I'm DJ EsTeh. And that was a song from the young lady, Jesse Ware, from the album What's Your Pleasure. We're going through a number of albums.
That sounded good in the headphones.
Yeah, it's very, very meaty song, isn't it? It's like Gloria Gaynor in 2020. Jesse Ware, Spotlight. So where are we going from here, my dear friend?
All right, let's go with I got a story here. The most haunted places in Indonesia. And the thing that I found interesting about this is that the beginning of the article says, superstition is part of the daily chit-chat of Indonesians, even in the metropolis of Jakarta. And I've noticed this. My girlfriend, she always is constantly watching Indonesian people tell stories about horror movies, and there's lots of Indonesian horror movies, when I used to go to the mall, displayed at the mall. So I don't know what it is. I don't know if this is just kind of like a young person's thing, or it's just like in all Asia, but they really tend to actually really be into ghost stories and supernatural and
they always sort of walk into a place and go, oh, there's a ghost here,
Indonesian people.
Yeah,
I don't know what is that. What's up with
anywhere
that?
they go, there seems to be a ghost everywhere, and there probably is. But I don't know. It's a very spiritual, very cosmic kind of place. It doesn't surprise me too much.
Well,
how they are.
This one, this what we're going to talk about now is, I don't think it's the kind of thing, this kind of spiritual that people are looking for. This is probably the stuff you probably want to avoid. So I don't think there's really a ranking here. So we'll just go and we'll just start it. So, and if you've been to any of these places, even just the city, talk about it.
Let's go.
Number 1.
Yeah.
1,000 Doors. 1,000 Horror Stories. And I'm going to butcher all these pronunciations. Lawang Siwu Semarang. Semarang is a city in Central Java, a big city. North Coast. Widely said to be Indonesia's most haunted place, the Lawang Siwu is notorious for being featured in the final episode of a local paranormal TV series, which they don't give the name, so it can't be that famous, where an apparition was apparently caught on video. A few days later, rumors spread online that one of the participants had died recently. Sitting right in the heart of Semarang, and it's a beautiful building. It's it almost looks like a clubhouse for a country club or something, or like a horse racing clubhouse. Lawang Siwu marked the Dutch's success in Indonesia, and the Dutch's success in Indonesia is the Indonesian people's not success, because they were quite brutal. Rich in colonial era atmosphere, the building itself is a majestic piece of architecture and a modern marvel at that time. Underground tunnels were made to cool the building, also served as passageways connected to the governor's residence. But during the Japanese occupation, Lawang Siwu was used as their headquarters in Semarang. So they came in the end of the last 4 or 5 years of World War II, and were just absolutely brutal to the Indonesians. The underground tunnels served as prisons where people were brutally tortured, and decapitated heads were piled in a corner of the basement. Climb up a few stairs and you will get goosebumps. The ghost of a girl who committed suicide to escape torture is said to be roaming the tower, often floating feet off the ground. And there is a picture, allegedly, of somebody seeing her, and it doesn't look anything like her. Entrance fee is 10,000 rupiah, 74 cents, plus 20,000 rupiah, $2.20 for a basement tour. So you can go here.
Wow. I have once been sightseeing in Semarang. And nobody told me about this place.
What did you go sightsee besides
I
bars?
went to a museum, and that was kind of uninteresting. But I should have gone to this place. And that reminds me, actually, of a bar I went to, which was recently renovated into a very fancy restaurant bar. It's quite a happening place.
Which one's that?
Couldn't tell you the name.
I just drove by one I'd never seen before.
Hmm?
I don't know.
In Semera.
No. Oh, it was in Semarang. I thought it was here. Well, you said recently.
You came the long way here.
Sorry. All right, number 2. An otherworldly commute, the Bintaro Railway and Mangari Station. So I did not know about this, but my girlfriend and other people had mentioned, oh yeah, this is kind of a famous one. Obviously. Widely condemned as the nation's most devastating railway accident, 2 trains collided head-on Monday morning, the 19th of October, 1987, in Bintaro, South Jakarta, due to an internal miscommunication. More than 100 lives were lost. Some were thrown out on impact, while others bled to death as they were crushed in between pieces of metal. It was a gruesome scene, and it took almost 2 days to evacuate the bodies. I'm looking at the pictures here. I mean, 2 trains hitting massive head-on collision. And here's the interesting part. Since then, the number of accidents on this exact stretch of railway have oddly increased, especially on Mondays. Increasingly widespread were stories of drivers who did not notice warning signs of oncoming trains. There was also a spike in the number of pedestrians who walked onto the railway tracks right in front of speeding trains who were believed to be possessed by the deaf spirit, or in Bahasa Indonesia, hantu budek. The most recent major accident took place only in late 2013 when an oil tanker was struck by a train, causing a huge explosion, killing 7 people. The picture is brutal. Regarded as the tragedy number 2, the incident reminded the public of the railway's dark past. The story doesn't end there. For decades, the wrecks from railway accidents around Jakarta were brought to a train graveyard. So there's it's kind of like an old airport or a train graveyard. And allegedly these trains run at night, or people will hear the trains running or on, and then there's nobody in there. And this story, which obviously I cannot confirm if it's true, but let's just pretend it is. One of the most bizarre stories is that of a college student who saw what looked like victims inside the train that he was on late one night. Surprisingly, his legs became very sore when he reached his destination. He talked to a security guard who happened to be on duty reporting it, only to find out that there had been no train all along and he had run the whole way. The security guard told him that he was running.
He had taken mushrooms or something.
Right. Anyway. He had taken cake delivered in the mail. Number 3, don't forget to honk when passing by Jakarta. One thing in Jalan Casablanca, do you know this?
I know it, yeah. I know.
Inhuman levels of traffic, but they say it's also known, it's just one of the most dangerous roads ever. Accidents occur every other week, and even the newly built flyover has already claimed a number of lives.
Oh, really? They've gone off the edge?
I guess so.
Because that's where they have the the road on top of the road, right?
Yes, what it looks like. And it seems very dangerous. It was built on top of a cemetery.
Yeah.
So that's never a good idea.
That's where it comes down, actually. It's right. I used to live next door to that cemetery.
Really?
I know it all very well.
Did you ever get visited by ghosts?
Oh, some seem to be in a dress, but anyway.
They say that there's been suicides there. And remember to honk 3 times when you enter the tunnel. Did you do that? I do. I honk when I drive by every cemetery in Bali. I always honk. I don't know why, but
I was
told to do that.
Okay.
I just do whatever I'm told.
I thought, they seem to go over a bridge, you honk, or whatever. Turn a corner, you honk. Anyway,
well, that's for to make sure you're alive. This is for kind of respect. This one's very interesting. So this is the supernatural shopping spree at the Mall Klender in Jakarta. Sudden collapse of Indonesia's economy in the late 1990s stirred up a lot of violence within people, resulting in looting, mass murder, and rape. On May 15, 1998, an army of looters, because when they took down the president at the time, Suharto, seized the Yogyakarta department store. A fire was deliberately set inside the store and engulfed the 4-story building. More than 300 people were trapped and burned to a fiery death. They say a lot of remains still remain in the building. And the incident shook the nation as well as the Indonesian community. And I'm looking at the pictures. There's literally just hundreds of absolute charred bodies that they're just pulling out of a wreckage.
This is in Yogyakarta?
No, this is just called Jakarta. In Klender Mall in regular Jakarta. Right. And it is difficult for the locals to let go of the traumatic
Block
memories.
M, I think it is Block M. Up in the north.
ghosts are said to haunt the area, including a phantom bus passenger who hitches a ride at night, only to disappear a few hours later. This one, our friend Ed told me about, that he actually knew somebody involved in one of the tragic lethal accidents here. The epicenter of the Bogor Triangle, Mount Salak, one of the many places that claims to be haunted. Mount Salak is a mountain in Java. It's in Java, right? Mm-hmm. Yes. And there are 7 unexplained air crashes, very similar to what we talked about last week, in the past decade, where planes suddenly lost contact with the control towers. Probably very similar to what happened in 1974 in Bali. The most recent air crash took place on May 9th, 2012, which our friend Ed said that he knew somebody on that flight. Did you know this person?
Air hostess?
Yes.
Was it? Yeah. I think I know the story. But I remember that story of it was a Russian plane, right? And they were testing it.
You got it. What else do you know? Fill me in.
I don't know. What did it say there?
So what? It was just the crew?
Yeah. I think it was like the first flight or something. They just been delivered. And
a Russian super jet
testing it with a Russian pilot, I believe.
On a test run, supposedly flew right into the face of a cliff after losing radio contact, killing everyone on board. But more peculiarly, the search and rescue team all reported having the exact same dream about a mysterious woman who led them into a house full of beautiful women. The team also reported to have heard a woman crying for help, but she was never found. The cries oddly came from a different area than that of the crash. So that, like I said before, plane crashes are very scary to me. Yeah, sure. Let's see here.
So you said there was a third in recent times.
There was 7, according to that article, in that particular...
on that mountain?
Yeah.
Really?
This one, the House of Satanic Worship, the Octopus House in Bandung. Look at that picture. It's literally a giant rock octopus on top of a building. Wow. In 2013, a local news channel set to debunk the ongoing rumors of a Satanist church in Bandung, which Bandung is, my girlfriend's from there, is a Catholic kind of enclave within Indonesia, in Java, the main island, which is mostly Muslim.
Yes and no. Yes and no. There's a lot of Muslims there too.
Sure, anyway, of course. But I think there's more Catholics there than probably anywhere else in the country.
We could debate that for a while.
I mean, I don't even want to debate. I just want to know.
Go ahead.
A group of journalists attempted to uncover the mystery. I mean, this is a house with a giant rock octopus. You don't see a statue of an octopus very often. The interesting thing is that you cannot enter this house from the road. It is only surrounded by other houses where you have to walk through to get there. And the only way to get in there is through house number 6. And for some other reason, the number 6 is played 3 other times in the front of the house. The investigation ended when a loud quarrel broke out between journalists and caretakers of the house. There's rumors that it's a satanic church that is used for occult-related sex rituals. But however, several investigations later, no evidence supporting that has been found. And the owner of the house has been very upset with the rumors that are going around about this, about his place, and he's like, I'm just an art devotee, and this is just nothing that you guys are talking about.
He built it?
I don't know. He just lives there.
Well, somebody must have built the place, I'm sure.
I don't know who built it.
Because it's kind of weird. A huge octopus sitting on top of a house.
It's very strange. So this, and then the next one is Chunyan, which is we talked about before, which I went to, where they buried the people a lot above the ground. They don't actually bury them. We talked about that.
Up the lake.
Yep. And this one, I mean,
what's this one?
Mount Merapi, which is one of the most active volcanoes in the world, 3,000 meters above the sea. I mean, it just erupted a couple months ago. It's literally one of the most active volcanoes in the world, and they just say that it's so many explosions and eruptions. 2 guards were baked to death during an eruption, and
well, there's an eruption last night at Sinabung in Sumatra, 5,000 kilometer high plume.
Last night, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, it was on the news today. Sorry.
2 more. This one's in Bali, the Bedugul Taman Rekreasi Hotel up in Bedugul, the iconic Bedugul Lake Hotel, and it is just completely abandoned. It's been sitting there 2 decades, just abandoned, and it was originally tried to be built by Tommy Suharto, which was a son of a previous president. And this hotel is massive, and it's never opened. It's completely abandoned. And it says that you can see wandering spirits.
Now it's become some kind of Instagram spot, hasn't it?
I'm sure it has. And I had a student named Alexander Sandner. He's no longer here, but he went up there and he did a story about it. And he went up there by himself. It was a project, and he had some unbelievable pictures. I mean, it is overgrown now. The abandoned hotel in Badoogle, somewhere built between 1880 and 1890. The man who built it, the son of Indonesian President Suharto, was arrested and thrown in prison for allegedly assassination attempt of a Supreme Court judge. Is that true? I did not know that.
Yeah. But only it was inside for a couple of years.
Oh, so okay. So
and apparently like a 5-star facility.
I'm sure. It offers marvelous views over Badoogle, which is like. Do you want to talk about Badoogle?
Oh, Badoogle's a beautiful spot in Bali. It's up in right on top of Batu. I'm not sure what the name of the mountain is, but it is an old volcano, not active. It's got a very nice Japanese-built golf course. You'd never see a more beautiful golf course in the whole world, I'm sure. And it's very cool, and there's a lot of mist, and it's kind of spooky.
Well, he went up there and he took these pictures, and if you can walk around right now, you can go up there right now and walk around, and there's a gentleman outside, he said, that asked him for 11,000 rupiah, which is about 70 cents at the time, to enter, which is pretty cool. So shout out to Alex for that. And the last one that we're going to talk about, the Land of the Living Dead in Tanah Toraja, South Sulawesi is another island in Indonesia. It's the one that looks like a spider. And you thought that Trunyan had some extravagant, weird death rituals. Check this out. This one goes a step further than just letting them decompose above the ground. In this, families, it takes months and years to save up for a funeral because they're very expensive. So as they're saving up for the funeral, the dead are preserved in the home, being bathed, fed. I don't know how a dead person eats, and occasionally even taking them for a stroll outside. The person is only declared truly dead after their funeral ceremony has begun. Dozens of buffaloes and pigs are sacrificed to feed the village on an 11-day funeral celebration of music and dancing. At the end, a parade takes the deceased towards a cliff where they are placed in coffins. For babies who died, teething holes are carved out, blah, blah, blah. Look at that picture. They're literally taking dead bodies and walking them around, cleaning them, feeding them, giving them exercise until
How long are they doing that for?
Until they can afford a burial. And it calls it one of the most complex burial rituals in the world. And in this culture, the Tanah Toraja, death is, quote, actually celebrated. It used to be and they're saying now when they would wash and change their clothes every year after they were buried, they've outlawed that recently. So a little bit of a change there.
So the coffin's not actually buried, or they have to dig it up?
It says the corpses are then taken place to where they originally died and then walked back to the cliffs. So yeah, very strange. And that to me was the scariest one. It was the last one on the list. So there is actually, which we won't do tonight, but maybe another time, the 5 real haunted places in Bali that you should visit. But a couple of those were pretty scary, especially the ones with the that happened during the 1998 riots and overthrow of the president. I mean, I'm sure there was massive atrocities and cold-blooded murder committed in there.
I heard about a bit of that, and it took a long time for the country to get over it, and probably still try to get over it in some parts. So
all right, so you want to go to all these places? Let's go.
Very spiritual place, then.
I'd go to the one in Badoogle for sure.
I've driven past many times, and it's not actually it's on the road up into the mountains, not quite in Badoogle. I was once going to buy land in Badoogle. I was very serious about it, but then I thought, gee, what happens if the volcano becomes active again? But anyway.
That's this whole country.
Well, that's right. But down here, we seem to be a little bit safe. Touch wood.
I mean, we had an earthquake week and a half ago at about 7:30 in the morning. I mean, it creeps and creeps and creeps closer. Lombok was 2 years ago, massive earthquake. I mean, it's literally just a matter of time.
Oh, for sure.
It's just a matter of time between the earthquake strikes the actual island of Bali.
But something better not to talk about. But anyway,
I mean, we probably should get ready.
What about how do you get ready? You just get ready.
Get ready.
Have a little pack ready to go. I'm not sure where you go. Anyway, give us a song from the 25.
All right, so we'll do one that I reviewed.
But down the bottom, so we end up with the number one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the ones that I thought was decent was this band called Dogleg. The album's called Melee. They call it post-hardcore. I just call it hard rock. It got an 86 cumulative score. I thought the first 4 songs were really good. And the one that we're going to play is the 4th track on the album, which is called the 3rd track on the album called Prom Hell, which is a take on, I think, the movie title From Hell.
Right. Awesome stuff. Prom Hell. I think we've got it right here. And we are ready to go. Yeah, as long as it's not playing.
I have my prom was hell, but I'm not sure if I should tell that story.
I love how it's anyway, we're going about it. Don't want to live in the room. Don't want to know John. Yes, we want to know John.
This album was released on March 13, 2020, right before quarantine. This is Dogleg with Prom Hell. Yeah,
that was, what was it?
Dogleg.
But apparently we're having some difficulties. But we're going to talk about it. So,
we should talk about it.
Well,
because you prefer Spotify, and Spotify is shit. And I'm not financially invested, but Apple Music is just so superior. I mean, their app, which I don't even think iTunes is supported anymore, or certainly no new updates. But the Apple Music app, which was designed by Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine, who was the founder of Interscope Records, which one of the best record labels ever, Nothing Interscope. Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails album that signed Marilyn Manson, Prick, a couple other bands, 12 Rounds. One of my favorite record labels ever. Featured on that Interscope Records documentary that came out last year. I forgot what it was called. Yeah.
So how much does it cost to?
It's $9.99 a month, and unlimited streaming. The way that they just catalog it and the way that they just have it it's so intuitive. It's so good. They have every single song ever, and you can just download an album and it just it's.
But you download as if onto your drive,
onto your device,
like,
and it's just available
MP3.
It's just a file. And I listen to every album. I download them. I can't get the art, and the liner notes, which I don't even know if exists anymore. But they just have everything. They have curated playlists, and it's just so easy. It never fails me. I love Apple Music. It's $9.99. I think for a family, you can get it for like 4 or 5 users for like $20. It's just fantastic.
Well, because they say on Spotify you can download the music, but in fact, all you do is save it to the program. You can't actually download it, which is impossible to run a radio with, because you need the physical file. But there you are. I'll have to look at what is it? Apple Music.
Apple Music. All right. So, do we have this interview that we're gonna look at?
Let's check it out.
So give me the background about this guy. This is a broadcaster in Australia.
Alan Jones,
who nobody has heard of. He's.
Tell you the truth, I haven't really heard too much of him either. But he was, because I haven't actually lived in Australia since, like, I don't know how long, almost 30 years ago. So Alan Jones was formerly the coach of the Australian rugby team.
Which definitely qualifies him to talk about coronavirus, for sure.
Well, it definitely qualifies him to be one of the biggest radio personalities in Australia over the last 20 years, apparently.
A speechwriter in the office of the Prime Minister of Malcolm Fraser. He did attend. He has a bachelor's degree from the University of Queensland. He had rugby teaching. He's one of these teachers.
Oh, he's a teacher.
He's one of these evil teachers.
No wonder he loves to talk.
No wonder he thinks he knows everything.
Oh, yeah.
He was had a radio station show on 2GB from 2002 to 2020 and blah blah blah. He's been frequently sued for defamation. Yeah. Anyway, I guess he's retired. But whatever this, he was on the television and he gave this
I think
speech here, which we're going to listen to and talk about. He's 79 years old, so he's clearly like of a certain generation that just is stuck in their ways, stuck in their minds, have their opinions, and they don't listen to anyone. Any new information. That's what I've noticed about people of that ilk.
Well, maybe they've got some experience and some insight into the way things work as well. Not, being under 30 years old, probably you're lacking in some experience. So sometimes it is worth listening to your elders.
I just want to say, University of Oxford, he took one non-degree course, which is basically just like, give us money.
Treat us nicely on the radio anyway.
He clearly has a successful union rugby football coaching, but
no, I think he's been very controversial over many years for saying it how he believes it is. Not and something I kind of respect with this guy, and I don't really know that much about him, but from what I've seen just recently, he does say it how it is, or how he believes it is. Which is
will give him credit. He did have the highest rated morning drive radio show in Sydney, Australia, for 100 consecutive ratings. So Morning Drive is the most important radio hour when people are driving to work, because it's mostly car based. So to be number one for 100 consecutive ratings periods is incredible. I'm not sure how good the competition was. But conservative talk radio does do well, no matter what time it is. So he does have a little bit of history. All right, so should we play this?
A little bit of weight. Here we go.
He's basically.
I must confess, I was feeling intellectually lonely until I read a piece today by my colleague Andrew Bolt. Thank goodness for you, Andrew. Here we are with alarmist political behaviour everywhere, leading to alarmist headlines. Victoria now in an official state of disaster. Why? 671 new cases yesterday and 7 more deaths. Don't you love it? New cases. Let's deal with the deaths. You know my view. Anyone's death diminishes us all.
Okay, stop. So this is a thing that happens all the time, which you kind of have to do, unless you're like just a real asshole or you really don't care, is that you do have to qualify the statement that you're about to say to cover your ass, to be like, I'm actually not just a super sociopath, inhumane person. He basically said, and to be clear, he says one death. What does he say?
Diminishes all of us.
That doesn't even make any sense. Like, people die every day.
We all get affected.
So we all
die.
Well, yeah, but we're not affected by other people.
It's very inconvenient, that's for sure.
It doesn't make any sense what he said. Well, he's basically just trying to...
He's saying that he feels if someone dies too, and that's it.
Okay, but he
doesn't want everyone dying all the time. But it happens anyway.
As you're about to hear, he actually doesn't give a damn about anybody dying. So he had to say that. And
that's your viewpoint.
So
we'll let the listeners
He said he cared about life, and then he's going to now explain to us why he doesn't care about life. All right,
I scrutinised the World Health Organisation figures for today, midday. We have 43 people serious or critically ill.
In this Australian state of Victoria.
Yeah, that's right. And he's talking about people in hospital seriously ill. 40, was it? 48?
43.
43. So, anyway.
1% of all cases Australia-wide, 43. And yes, there were 7 deaths on Sunday. 3 women in their 70s, a man and a woman in the 90s, all in nursing homes.
Today in the
Screw
news,
them.
Today in the news, they said, there was 9 people dead from aging from 50 to 90 or something in their 90s. And I imagine, there must have been 1 person 50 and 8 in their 90s. But anyway, go on.
No, but he's clearly he's setting it up where he's basically saying
they're not deaths from COVID.
I don't care about old people.
They tested positive, but there were other preconditions.
I don't know how he would know
Victoria
that.
had 400 excess deaths in the month of April. That is 400 more than the usual number for April. 400.
What's he mean there?
I don't know. I'm already getting bored. Like, honestly, he said that 400 more people died more in April than I guess on average. Okay, probably.
From what?
I don't know. What's your point? Well, coronavirus, obviously.
Well, no, it's only 120 died since the beginning. Anyway,
the total deaths to date from coronavirus, 221.
All right.
Yet we have a state of disaster. Our job recovery's gone backwards. The New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian, she kicks in, continues to alarm us. The next few weeks will make or break us.
Now, when he says a state of emergency, is that literally like just his language or the language of the media, or is that an actual legal official term in Australia?
They announced it was a state of disaster.
So what does that mean, like lockdowns, or is that just like hyperbole?
I'm not sure. I think it probably means the police can go out and do anything they want.
So in America, it's if a state of emergency is declared, certain funds are released. The National Guard, which is kind of like each state's like volunteer army type thing, can clear the roads or make sure the flooding is. So I guess I'm assuming
it's a disaster. Anybody can do whatever they have to do in government to make it not a disaster.
Okay, so he is not impressed that hundreds of people are dying. He's not impressed.
No, he's not impressed. Over 6 months, 200 people died, and then suddenly we're destroying the whole economy. That's what he's saying.
Okay, fair enough.
Well,
that's a fair argument.
If lockdowns were the answer, why do these deaths continue to escalate? And for 221 deaths and 43
because people aren't actually locking
currently
down.
Serious, out of a national population of 25 million people, why have we filled Australia with fear and alarmism?
Valid point.
I guess it is a valid point, whatever your perspective of, quote, fear and alarmism is. I mean, he's saying lockdowns are the answer. Well, the problem with that is it's a term that you can't actually measure whether people are doing it or not.
But
his point is the economy is suffering.
it is the lockdown. That's what they're saying. This is the government's lockdown. So that's what we're dealing with. This is the lockdown.
But clearly people weren't doing it because the cases have gone up. Okay.
Yeah, well, that's the point. Anyway, go.
The consequences on personal well-being, business viability, the national economy and mental health, the consequences are far beyond what could be described as responsible management of the situation. Back to Andrew Bolt briefly, where he wrote today, and I've been saying this for months, but I quote Andrew, there's a better way to save lives and save the economy from certain disaster. Victoria, don't accept this. There's a better and cheaper way to save the state and the country. And he goes on to make the point that I've made. Look after the vulnerable. Most of them are in aged care.
All right. First, he's saying look after the vulnerable, which I assume he means the elderly and those with underlying conditions. But as you're going to hear, and as he said before, he doesn't actually care that they're dying. He said we had 7 deaths previously in the last week or whatever, people in their 70s and people in their 90s. So on one hand, he's saying, let's just protect the vulnerable. And then he's basically just, shrugging off those actual vulnerable people who died.
But the thing is, were they going to die anyway?
Is that his decision to make? Is that any of our decision to make?
No, but
of course they're going to die anyway.
They should possibly, be, how in China they're welding up the fucking doors, right? They're welding up the doors to keep people inside at the beginning. Well, maybe that's what they should be doing at these old people's homes, really blocking them down, so they cannot get.
I'm sure if that happened, this guy would be screaming bloody murder about that too. He wouldn't be supporting that. He would call that a civil liberties. What I'm saying is, he says the most vulnerable, but clearly, as you're going to hear, he doesn't actually care. All right, go.
Because he's old.
He's 79 years old.
He
is one of the vulnerable
He probably
people.
understands the threat it is. Okay, go.
And as Andrew Bolt brutally states, 40% of aged care home residents die within 9 months. So Victoria's bans are doing huge damage.
I guess that's an average.
Okay, so what he's saying there is, as soon as you're committed to a nursing home, you die within 9 months. So therefore, these people are going to die.
If you're lucky.
These people are going to die anyway, so what the hell are we doing crashing the economy trying to save their lives? He doesn't care that old people, his peers, are dying. He's one of these people who likes to speak for everybody else, and he says, you need to sacrifice your life for the economy.
Wait a minute. You're talking from a very young person's point of view.
I'm not that young.
Well,
I would not.
Sounds like
I don't think I would say to my age group peers, hey, you need to sacrifice your life so people in their 40s and 50s can have their third car.
No, he's not saying that. He's saying that, and from my experience too, which I explained to you the other day, when my mother passed away, bless her soul, after a very long illness. And the last thing that she told me when she was still coherent was she would prefer to die. Now, this is also a question about euthanasia and everything else, but I think there's a lot of people in these hospices, they're not necessarily aged people's home, hospices where they're going to die. They'll probably be quite happy to fucking
hospice is not the same as a retirement home. Wow. How long was your mother suffering? Because my mother was
5 years.
Okay, totally. Now listen, if that happens to me, I'm sure that I will agree with her. But we're talking about like 2 weeks of being sick. It's not the same. Coronavirus is not 5 years of suffering.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's lots of people in their 70s, 80s, and 90s who have worked their ass off their whole lives, who have a lot of money to retire, who want to enjoy themselves, and who have grandchildren and children they still want to enjoy their time with.
They're not vulnerable. They're not that vulnerable. There's a lot of older, 20% actually, check the figures. I don't know how many of these old people actually die without already some sort of condition. Not
as many as that have. Okay, go ahead.
All right. So those people, fair enough. But what we're talking about is these people that have already have this underlying condition.
Listen,
right?
my
They're
problem
already
with
in
this
a
guy
bad way.
is that he has a privileged life. Whether he earned it or it was given to him or not doesn't matter. I'll even say that he earned it. But now he is now the arbiter of justice, and because they've lived such a quote successful life, and they've had this kind of privilege to be on their air and to make people listen to you all for 20 years, you're now somehow, because you have a microphone like us, able to tell people what to do and to decide when or how you should die and how long you should be able to live after you get sick. All right,
well,
go.
this whole thing is very interesting about freedom of speech. Right from the beginning, if you agree with what the government line is, everyone's going, yeah, you're wonderful, amazing. If you don't, you're like this evil force. Now, so that stifles the whole debate. You know, there
I agree
are
with
different
you.
ways of looking at this thing.
I'm not sure it's if you disagree with the government. I think what it is these documentaries that are being made, that are being pushed out with stuff that's not confirmed or credible information. I don't think they should be banned. I think we need to teach people to have better critical thinking skills to be able to determine what's bias and BS and what's not. But to ban things is a very dangerous, slippery road, because if you agree that pandemic documentary or that hydrochloroquine speech was banned, well, you know what? In a couple of years, they're going to come for you. They're going to come for you when you're talking about your political views or your opinions or whatever the next thing is. And then who's there going to be to stand up for you? So we need to let all people express themselves, even if they're complete morons.
And it's totally ridiculous what they're trying to do to Trump, who you might like or not like, but not allowing a president of the United States to state their point of view so everybody can hear it.
When's that happened? When has he not been allowed to?
Didn't Twitter ban him?
Twitter banned like one tweet.
All right.
Like he literally tweets 200 times a day.
TikTok, maybe?
He did that. And the reason he banned TikTok, it's not because, I don't want to talk about Trump, but it's not because China is some like nefarious spyware. I mean, it could be, but there's no credible evidence about that TikTok is that. The reason that he banned that is because those kids got on that app and they bought all these fake tickets for his rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma, when only 6,000 people showed up. The only reason he's banning TikTok is because they effed him over and made him look like a fool. All right, keep going with this guy.
I thought it was because he wanted to sell it to Bill Gates, but anyway, we're on.
Essentially, to save aged care residents from dying a few months earlier.
Hurry up and die.
Older people are quarantining at home.
Get it in the way.
I said last week we followed lemming-like. First, alarmist so-called health experts who seem to know nothing and care little for the economic consequences of what they're advocating, and politicians and the media follow on with the same alarmism. And here we are. Swimming in debt, kids are not at school, people are locked up. The mental anguish of this is beyond calculation. Which brings me to Professor James Allen.
All right, wait.
Professor James Allen...
Now all of a sudden he cares about people's mental anguish. This guy is not the kind of guy who cares about people's well-being. He cares about himself. But now, for it to further his argument, he's going to say, oh, there's no schools, people are suffering. He's just using that to support his argument. Now, he does have a point. There are a lot of health experts that do not have regard for the economy, but that's their job. Their job is to promote the health aspect of it. They're not economists. The economists over here are the ones that argue for the other, and then hopefully some sort of regular, sensible solution can come to, which he does make a point that maybe it's not a good policy, but that's what health experts do. They are going to be alarmists. That's their job. He's a rugby coach. His job is to coach the rugby team. He doesn't care about the ticket sales. He doesn't care about the grass. His job is to focus on the team.
So it's the government's job to direct the country. And apparently they're using experts, health experts' advice. They should also be getting everyone else's advice that's involved in the economy as well. That's what I believe, and I don't think they are. Or is there some underlying reason why they're not doing this?
I think America is much more concerned with the economy than the health. All right, go.
Right.
Is a Canadian-Australian law professor, the Garrick Professor of Law at the University of Queensland. He wrote recently that nothing has changed his mind since he made earlier comments in April. Quote, what I said back then, I will repeat now. In a decade, this will be looked back on as one of the most colossal public policy fiascos of the century, unquote. And referring to the rest of
let's talk about that. He has a point, okay? when crises happen and we look back on it, we generally determine the response to be bad, whether it's to terrorist attacks or health crisis or natural disasters. That's fair. However, it is impossible to compare what the results are now to what would have been if nothing happened. I do think it is...
Wait a minute, we do have Sweden.
You keep bringing up Sweden.
Which did take a different route.
They did,
Yes.
but
And-
let's... Okay, keep going.
All right. And, okay, fair enough, they've had a lot of fatalities.
10 million... They had a lot of fatalities. Well, then I guess...
So
It's in line with this guy's argument. We don't care about deaths.
In millions,
I need that money
wait a
coming
minute.
in.
In millions, no, I think they're in the 5th or 6th position in all of Europe. So they're not the worst.
Europe
Right.
has over 200,000 deaths, so
No,
that's
but
still not pretty
Spain,
good.
Italy, UK, blah, blah. Per million, they have less deaths.
10 million people, total population in Sweden, just so you know. So
but basically,
good for them.
they
Very small country.
They did have a very similar lockdown than what we had here in Bali. In the reality, the government told people they should be keeping a distance and staying at home if they didn't have to go out, and they did it, and they followed the rules, the same as here.
By any metric, Bali's response to this so far has been a success.
Similar.
49 deaths.
The government says stay at home, and they do, and you wear a mask, and they do. So
4 million people. 4 million people. Sweden, of a population of 10 million, had 80,000 deaths. Okay, so he does make a point. I do think the problem. Here's the thing. There's the thing that is crazy to me about coronavirus is that we quote locked down or shut things down. Generally, depending on where you were, the month of March, when there was the lesser cases in most places, other than like New Zealand and a couple other countries, than there are now. The lockdown or the staying home or the measures were more strict when there were less cases. But the reopening happens when there's a ton of cases. In other words, if things had been switched around, if you had 50,000, 30,000 cases a day in the beginning and you weren't really, and you were kind of being as open as you are now, you would look at now and be like, if things were reversed, it would have been a success. It doesn't make sense to me to, as the cases go up, to kind of relax your stuff. Now, his argument is we need to go to school and we need the economy to work. I get that.
No, but maybe this virus, unless there is some kind of vaccine, is just going to run through the whole planet. No matter, it's not going to stop.
I think that's becoming
now
clear.
or later. So that's something that the governments have to think about and come to some new way of thinking about it. Because in 6 months from now, if this planet is still, the economy is still going on like now, there won't be hardly anybody left.
If the economy is going on as I mean, it depends on what economy you're talking about. But if there's not an improvement in either the economy or the falling of cases in 6 months from now, then yes, it was definitely a failure. Because both aspects, the safety and the health of the people and the economy, both were not improving.
Well, yeah, that's why I think they should have been having more think tanks on how to.
No, think tanks are evil. Think tanks are ways to go to war.
Let me say. Or people thinking about and putting some effort in as much as they're doing with this vaccine on how to keep these vulnerable people safe.
Russia announced that they have a vaccine today.
Really?
And I don't believe it for 1 second. And Vladimir Putin said that his daughter took it.
Really?
And then some journalist fell out of a window. No, I mean journalists fall out of windows all the time in Russia. I don't know why you're laughing.
I don't know.
They're just really clumsy. They're really clumsy. I do want to talk about the part where he is disingenuous with the figures coming up here.
Be followed by, quote, virtually all Western governments. He said you'll have, quote, some combination of the following. Shut down businesses, the bureaucratic political complex deems inessential. Indulge in extraordinary inroads into people's civil liberties. Don't trust average citizens, but turn the police into an arm of the nanny state. Lock down huge chunks of the productive economy. Pay, now he says, make that overpay, all sorts of people to do nothing at all.
Overpay?
While having no plausible
It's
politically...
It's unbelievable what they're paying down in Australia to do nothing.
What is it?
Well, it's like $1,500 a fortnight.
What's a fortnight?
2 weeks.
Okay. That's $750 a week.
Yeah.
You think that's enough to live on?
How much do you get?
More than that.
Really?
In America, it's $600. It was $600 a week, and now expired. It's going to be $400. This overpaying for $750 to $600 a week that's a poverty level. The problem is not the fact that these governments are paying people out.
It's not the poverty level.
It is.
No
the
way.
problem.
The dole before this point was like $200 or $300 less per week. So they've upped it to.
Okay,
to
it's not the
make
poverty
people.
level. It's $30,000 a year. But if you include taxes and the cost of living in both of these countries, Australia and America, which are incredibly expensive, especially when it comes to rent and
That's
mortgage.
in the hand, man. That's in the hand.
What I'm saying is, I think the issue that people are ignoring that I think is more important is that these jobs pay shit, and the fact that you're making $600 or $700 a week is an improvement. Is not saying that the government is doling out money. It's saying the jobs that they had before were really poorly paid, and we could
and getting worse.
And Jeff Bezos and Amazon pays no money in federal taxes. Don't you think if we taxed these for digital transactions online or some of these super millisecond, nanosecond digital transactions? Because the corporate lobbyists, they can in 2 seconds.
Right,
because the politicians are involved in the corporatocracy and the lobbyists are very strong. They're stronger than the will of the people. Corporations run the world. Their lobbyist groups run the world. And when these people get out of office, they go work for the corporations. So we could do this if we had the will. The people in charge don't actually have the will.
Yeah.
They don't want to do it. And then they complain that people are getting more money from the government because of a pandemic. Well, you could fix that. We wouldn't probably need that much stimulus if people had decent wages in the first place.
But also it means that money is flowing around the economy as well and keeps things going. But the trouble is the businesses are going broke anyway.
The small businesses. The corporations are fine. And the fact of the matter is this money is just being printed out of nowhere. It's just hyperinflation.
So who's going to be paying for it in the end?
Well, like
The
always
people.
do, the next generation. That's right.
So it all looks good right now, but it's going to get really ugly.
You know, people keep saying that. When?
Or does it?
I don't know. I'm talking to people that I know. I talk to my financial guy. I talk to people that read things. I talk to my father who's involved in this. And it's like no one knows. No, everyone is completely blown away that the fact that it almost seems to be that there is just a continual stimulus of cash now between the central federal governments and the ruling class, the financial institutions, and they're not even worried about this because they just know that the government's going to bail them out, and they can use the loan money and the stimulus money to buy shares back, to pay their bonuses, to lay, and they have no guarantees that you don't have to lay people off if you get these things. So I have no idea how the United States Dow Jones stock market is at 27,000 when its all-time high is 29,000. It's 1,500 points away from its all-time high, 5 to 6 months into an economic calamity. I can't explain it.
Nobody can explain it.
And that's the thing about the stock market. No one knows anything.
But it makes you wonder, doesn't it? It seems like the whole economy's gone from this global economy to this very macro kind of your neighborhood economy overnight. Is that
I don't know.
Like from Trump's, polarism and
I
all
don't
this
look
stuff?
at it like that.
No, it's like the global economy is just going to disappear overnight.
But the problem is, my job.
You can't even travel.
You can't even travel, but it's still, supply chains, shipping routes, purchases. What happens in South Korea affects what happens in Canada. That's globalization. The price of the fact that Saudi Arabia is pumping less oil affects the price of, as we all know. I mean, this is simple global economics. The problem is, no matter where you are, even if you're in Sweden, you're still going to be affected negatively because there's going to be less travel, there's going to be less people coming to your businesses, less spending money to purchase online commerce. I don't like the globalization.
Look at the airlines.
I give Trump that. I agree.
How are they going to be surviving?
Most of them should just go out of business.
There's too many of them apparently.
And they have this shitty customer service.
Anyway, let's go on.
Palatable route out of that situation. And in doing all of that, become the biggest government spenders of virtually all time.
Good.
Saddling the next generation with untold debts and making Gough Whitlam green with jealousy.
He doesn't care about us.
Gough Whitlam was quite famous for spending government money.
Again.
Wrote Professor Allen, and I quote, "This is the sort of package policies you might unleash when faced with the 14th century Black Death, which is estimated to have killed from a third to half of Europe's population."
When the population was
By contrast,
10% of
he
what it
says,
is now.
The American Centre for Disease Control estimates the infection fatality rate of coronavirus about 0.26%. To put that in contrast, a bad flu season kills about 0.24% of people. Who catch it?
All right, this is what really pissed me off about this. All right, first of all, he's talking about the deaths during the Black Plague. The Black Plague. The world population was between 375 million to 475 million. We're now at 7.6, 7.5 billion. So that number is completely disingenuous to say that because the population was so much smaller. All right. Now, what he just said there was the fatality rate.
But why? Because that's percentage wise.
Well, for one, they didn't understand.
If half the population died tomorrow, well, you'd be concerned about it, wouldn't you?
I would be very concerned. But that back then, it was fleas. It was filth. They didn't have showers. They didn't have electricity. They didn't have running water. They didn't have antiseptic. They didn't have any medical. All right. That's a stupid argument that he says.
Bacteria.
Now, he says here the fatality rate where? In America, did he say?
Around the world?
He said 0.26% fatality rate.
Australia?
But what he's saying there is he's taking the number of confirmed deaths, comparing it to the entire population of the country. The reason why that is not an acceptable metric is because he's, on one hand, he's saying, okay, I do take the official statistics, which is the official deaths, and then I'm comparing it to the full population of the world. What he's not acknowledging is that there are probably 10 to 15 to 20% more actual cases and a couple percentages more actual deaths from corona than are officially reported in the statistics. If we have,
well, that could go both ways because they could be over-reporting coronavirus for every single thing that
that's
somebody
definitely
died from.
not happening.
Well, why not? Because every time that somebody has coronavirus, they say they died from that.
Okay, but fair enough.
They might have had some other.
Fair enough, but I think the vast majority certainly don't equal the amount of cases that are unreported right now, and the number of deaths that are unreported right now. If somebody dies in a poor village or somewhere, they're probably not going to be counted in the official statistics. So it's convenient for him to say, "Let me look at the entire population and then look at the number of official deaths." What he should be looking at, if he wants to use official, is go the official deaths versus the official cases, and if you do that, you're talking between 3 and 5% mortality rate, not 0.26. So he knows what he's doing. The problem is the audience probably doesn't know what he's doing, unless they're listening to this show.
Well, of course, but it is a valid point too that if there's 100 million people in your country, and 1,000 are dying, well, there's a percentage there, isn't it?
Well, again, that's a legitimate argument to have. 3 to 4 to 5% mortality rate. Is it worth what we're seeing now? And I go back and forth on that. Okay, so I do understand that argument. 3 to 4 to 5% is a big number. And again, here's the other thing. We're talking about deaths. We're not talking about barrels of wheat harvested. We're not talking about gallons of oil extracted from the ground. We're not talking about cars sold. All right. We're not talking about bananas eaten. We're talking about deaths. So even if you want to talk about it's a quote low percentage or if it's a quote low number, 70,000 deaths or whatever it is, that's still actual people. That's where these logic and reason and fact people don't get it. Or at least the people listening to them don't get it. You're talking about people.
I'm just taking up the side there because there happens to be hundreds or thousands of people that normally die from heart attack or heart disease or lung or whatever sort of ailment they have, which aren't being reported as dying now. So look, another example, like 1,200 people.
Heart attacks are not contagious.
Anyway, 1,200 people that die on the streets, right, which is commonly quoted nowadays in Australia. It doesn't mean that you make the speed limit 10 miles an hour, because that's going to destroy fucking everything.
Well, that's a good point. And just want to say, a friend of mine just sent me this. The world population as it sits at this very second is 7.804. 7,804,209,856, 7, 7, 8, 9, 60, 61.
And it's going up every second.
85 million births this year, 326 births today, 36 million deaths this year, 136,000 deaths today. Now, what you just brought up is
worldinfo.com or whatever it is.
Yeah, World Meters. What you just brought up is a fair point. I mean, when we invented the car and the airplane and the train, necessarily people died because of those things. Now, we had much more benefit of those things, traveling and commerce improving and more safe travel overall, much safer to travel in a car than it is a horse and buggy or riding a horse or walking. But We did basically just normalize deaths. We said there's going to be cars. There's a lot of convenience involved with that. But people are going to die every day. And some of it's going to be very, very tragic and very, very painful. But we accept
for the economy,
it. We accept
for convenience, for our ways of life, there's a definite benefit.
Exactly. Now, and I'm not even saying we shouldn't have cars. What I'm saying is let's just acknowledge that we are, when we have these major inventions, we accept death for the benefits. The problem is...
Well, you're trying to mitigate that it's not going to be so many. And that's the point that he's making, and I've been making for months, is that there should be more security on these people that are more vulnerable.
But then if that was happening, you people would say that they were oppressing these people and treating them like prisoners. I know how they would. You would never say that?
I would never say that.
Okay, maybe not you. Maybe Alan Wolf. What's his name? Alan Jones.
Jones.
Alan Jones.
Anyway, so let's see what else he's got to say.
And we don't annihilate the economy over that. Quote, he says, to put it in further contrast, 161,000 or so Aussies die every year in this country. I might add that's about 440 a day. But writes Professor Allen, between 1,000 and 1,500 die of the flu. We so far have had 221 deaths.
Compare it to the whole overall cases of the flu, sir, and you will see that it's less than 1%. He's not being genuine in the argument. He's not mentioning the fact that there are probably 25 million flu cases, and that's the only amount of deaths. Okay, go.
Includes those who've died with the virus, as well as those who've died from it. 221. But 1,200, writes Professor Allen, die in car accidents.
Not contagious. Not contagious.
Writing,
but dangerous all the same. That could be controlled by the government.
No.
More.
No, what I'm saying is if the government started controlling driving more than it is now, you'd flip your mind. You'd lose your mind.
No, absolutely.
The top 50 causes of death in this country. Writes Professor
Drunk
Allen,
driving.
All of that explains why the press,
how many of those people are
which
drunk?
has been a Pravda-like supporter of lockdowns and medical bureaucracies, hates Sweden. You see, Sweden didn't lock down or shut down any businesses or drive a truck through civil liberties. It gave its citizens advice, trusted them, and then tried to protect the elderly and the frail.
10 million.
Well, 10 million.
I mean, let's just be
Australia's
clear.
20 million.
25.
New Zealand is
4. Again,
and very spaced out.
And exactly, this is like very rare circumstances for a minute number of countries. People point to, how come no one points to New Zealand? They're doing the best. Everyone likes to point to Sweden. I guess it's because New Zealand people don't like New Zealand.
Similar to here, you know.
I mean Bali, but not Indonesia.
Not Indonesia, because Java's the most populous island on the world. There's 100.
That's right.
50 million, or who knows how many hundreds million are on that island, and you can imagine they're all living on top of each other. So you'd call them vulnerable.
So you could not seriously do, if you did what Sweden did to Java, you would have massive death. That's the thing. Go.
And it probably would be.
Definitely.
Let me just say here that I can hear the Morrisons of this world saying, but there were thousands of deaths in Sweden, 5,619 to be exact. But
fuck those people.
Says, in terms of deaths per million,
fuck them.
Sweden's deaths have been fewer than Belgium, the UK, Spain and Italy. Or put in terms the fearmongers in Australia can grasp, 99.95% of Swedes have not died of the coronavirus. For those Swedes under 60, 99.998% have not died. As Professor Allen says, to sum this up using a concept of the philosophy of the mind, this massive overreaction and love of lockdowns is bonkers and a monumental screw-up. His words. And
okay, all right. I've heard enough. Yeah. He has, you know what? In 10 years, he may be proven right. And the last thing that I want to say, and then you can say what you want to say, is that I find it hilarious. That countries like Canada, where the professor that he's quoting is from, and Australia, where this guy is from, they think what their governments are doing are oppressive. They have no idea what real oppression is. You think telling people to lock down for a couple months in your house is some sort of insane civil liberties? You know how many civil liberties they have in Canada and Australia compared to almost all of Central Asia, almost all of Africa, almost the entire Middle East, other than Israel and that's about it. And a lot of South America, and America. America has has an incredible amount of freedoms, but their government is also very oppressive in relativity. But for this Canadian professor and for this talking head to think that Australia is somehow like just absolutely crushing their rights, they should go to the Central African Republic. And I'm not saying that, you know, comparing one thing to another means like, oh, well, we should take away civil liberties in Australia. If they are, then that's a problem too. But they're really not. You can't go to the bar, okay?
I don't
Kiss my ass.
I don't think they're really talking about civil liberties, the lack of civil liberties.
He just said crushing civil liberty.
I think he's just saying that it's time for the governments the people who are governing this whole thing, to start thinking about other ways of handling this.
Let's go to Yemen and we'll look at some civil liberties.
Yeah, you love that place, don't you?
I love it.
Look,
I feel horrible. I hate Saudi Arabia.
Coronavirus, hopefully... The trouble is, nobody really knows what's going to happen. If suddenly all the doors opened up and everyone was just living like normal, what would happen?
Well,
we'd all just drop
there
dead.
is the argument to be made that if they literally stopped reporting on it or talking about it, in theory...
It'd go away.
Well, it depends on what your definition of it is. But in theory, if it was never talked about again, reality is reality, right? If the entire world tomorrow decided that 2 + 2 is 5, then 2 + 2 is 5. Yeah. Because it doesn't matter the reality. The matter is the perception, the acceptance, and how we live our life. So I'm not saying it's a good idea because we will have innocent people dying, and I don't want that. And I do not support what I'm talking about. However, the argument could be made, in theory, that if you stopped reporting on it, talking about it, and covering it, it would technically go away. However, we would have massive death and massive suffering of families and friends.
Yeah, well, there's other ways of looking at it too. Like this particular virus has as much right to be here as humans have to be here.
No.
So maybe it's put on the world to sort out the planet. You could look at it that way.
Sweden has 571 deaths per million people.
Anyway, talking about
which is very low,
close to death. This is another one from the, I think it's around top 3, 4 or something. Bob Dylan's latest album. Bob Dylan. This one's called A Curtain. Oh no, I Contain Multitude.
This was ranked by Pitchfork 2020 the the third best album of the year. You listened to it. Did you agree?
At first listening, I thought, gee, this sounds like, 40 years ago, but now he's older. There didn't seem to be a lot going for it. But I did actually listen to it a couple of more times, and I began to enjoy it. This particular track, I Contain Multitudes, is the first song off the album, and it's like a swan song. Like, he's talking about his life and how his multifaceted life is created, and here he is right at the end of it because he's 79 years old, and it's very appropriate for what we were just discussing. 10
tracks released on June 19, 2020 on Columbia, which Bob Dylan's always on Columbia. Rough and Rowdy Ways.
It's on the floor from Perfume Genius. It was number 2, I believe, on that list from Pitchfork of the best albums from so far in 2020.
Yeah, apparently that song is about a crush. That was pretty good. I mean, it's a little Prince-esque, which I'm not a huge fan of, but that was a nice song. Produced by a guy who produced Fiona Apple, which we're going to get to later. Not bad. And
apparently he used a lot of highly regarded session musicians making that album. People that worked with Bruce Springsteen, Elton John, Keith Richards, Eric Clapton, and the likes.
Oh, just those guys?
Yeah,
just those losers.
So he's got a bit of pedigree behind him as well. Perfume Genius.
He's probably spent a lot of money on those guys. He better sell a lot of records or tour because he's not going to get paid back for a while. Because you got to pay those people first. You got to pay the record label first. After that, and then you got to pay the producer, and then you might see 1 cent.
Yeah, exactly. But I guess Bruce Springsteen, Elton John, etc., aren't really making that many albums at the moment. So they've probably got nothing to do anyway. All right, so we're going down to Africa.
Yeah, we've been trying to do this story for a while. There's just been so much great stories and so many other crazy murders that we didn't get a chance. But this story's been going on since about February. The country of Lesotho, which is an enclave, meaning that it is surrounded. It's one of the only 3 countries in the independent states in the world that is surrounded on all sides by another country. Lesotho is a little mountain kingdom within the larger border of South Africa. The other countries surrounded by other countries are the Vatican, which you can literally walk to from Italy, and San Marino, both surrounded by Italy. So it gained independence from Britain in 1966. It's a fully recognized country, the UN. It's a member of the African Union. Lesotho has a population of 2 million people, 11,500 square miles, 30,000 square kilometers. The capital is a city called Maseru on the South African border. It is the largest exporter of clothing in sub-Saharan Africa to the U.S., so they have a lot of sweatshops.
Really?
And it is mostly farming and remittance, which means its citizens go abroad and send money back to their family. That is a lot of how these poor countries make their economy work. And they make $70 million a year selling water to South Africa. So South Africa drinks water pretty much from Lesotho. And what happened there...
So it must be a fertile kind of place.
It's a mountain kingdom. It's very small, but this story is huge. I mean, what happened there, starting in February, and it's still not resolved, the prime minister, who's no longer the prime minister, as you're going to find out why, Thomas Tabane. Again, I don't listen, I read, so I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. We'll just call him Tommy T. Straight Tommy T. His current wife...
Not to be mistaken for Tommy Soweto.
No. No, yeah, we're not going to go there. His current wife, whose name is Messiah, was charged with the murder of his previous wife and attempted murder of a friend that she was with. Basically, the Tommy T, the prime minister, was going through a divorce, and this lady, First Lady Messiah Tabane, wanted to be First Lady officially. The divorce proceedings were bitter. They were going on since 2017. And this murder occurred in 2017, and she was just charged in February with the murder. It was for
does it say how old these people are?
In their 60s.
Oh, right.
And I'm sorry, the Tommy T is in his 60s, but Messiah, the wife who committed the murder allegedly, or ordered the murder allegedly, is 42 years old. When this happened on January 10th, she got word that she was going to be arrested. She disappeared, of course, and she was picked up on the border with South Africa, trying to be a fugitive. The woman who had been killed, who had been living apart from her husband, Lipolelo Tabane, was 58. And on one evening in June 2017, when returning home, she was ambushed, shot several times at close range, and died on the side of the road. The murder shocked the nation, and Mr. Tabane described it as a senseless killing, which it's looking like now he probably was involved in. He tried to get immunity and continued to be the prime minister, and the parliament there said, no, you cannot be a prime minister while your wife is under investigation for murdering your other wife. Multiple witnesses claim to have internal knowledge of Messiah's involvement, including her stepdaughter, who was a target of the murder, who was not killed. Her friend, Miss Sabola, Thato Sambola, survived the shooting and is expected to play a pivotal role in the state's case against the First Lady. And one of the things about this case was that they didn't want to give Messiah, the woman who allegedly is responsible for the murder, bail, but a judge did granting her bail for about $60. On a murder rap, right. $60, and now this other.
I'm smelling something here.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to give him credit to the parliament for not letting the prime minister keep his role. But there's a lot of witnesses who basically, including the stepdaughter, who have intimate knowledges of this. They have messages that they've seen. They've heard voice recordings. Sounds like to me they've got a pretty solid case. But she is out on bail. She hasn't fled yet. And, I mean, this would be a major story if it was basically anywhere else in the world. The murder of the first lady of the country by the other wife of the prime minister, who's now no longer the prime minister. And
is he? Are you allowed? Wait a minute. He's still married to the other one? Are they allowed to have multiple wives?
They were getting divorced. Sounds like they are. And it sounds like her bodyguards were the ones that were hired to do the actual killing. One of the bodyguards, who allegedly was part of the plot, has since died under mysterious circumstances. And the hired killers also include a famous musician in the country and 5 other people. Like I said, the Prime Minister's daughter is providing evidence that her stepmom masterminded the plot, and also says she believes that her life is in danger, even more so now that she's out on bail. And like I said, Tabane tried to claim immunity, but he was not given that.
And why was she trying to kill the first?
Because she wanted to officially be the first lady.
So she was marrying into. I thought, well, if it's like this country where you can have 4 wives and a Muslim wife.
She was not officially the first lady. She was not getting the benefits of this, and she was like, you know what, enough of this. I'm just going to kill this person.
All right. So it's a Muslim country, maybe.
I don't think it's a Muslim country.
Anyway.
Because
if it's a Christian country, they wouldn't be allowed to.
Well, you never know. I mean,
who knows? Whatever.
Pervert religion all the time.
But she decided she wanted to be top dog.
Top dog. And so probably that's not going to happen because her husband is no longer the prime minister.
Anyway.
And there's really no update on this case yet. A judge did say, hey, a lot of this... The judge who granted her bail said, well, this case is just hearsay and statements. Well, like, that's like almost every case. Like, I know some cases have forensic evidence, but a lot of cases don't. It's based on witness testimony and, circumstantial evidence. So I don't really see that as some sort of disqualifying thing. And this judge seems to be maybe helping this guy out. But yeah, I mean, I could go into the details here. But
when was the
murder was in 2017, and then finally the charge came down January, February.
Okay.
So one of the guys involved was murdered. He probably was. He died. I'm not gonna say for sure he was murdered, but he probably was. And
he's not even the prime minister anymore, anyway. So,
no.
So she's not going to get anything out of it.
He hasn't been right. Exactly. Listen, the cover-up is always worse than the crime, and he is not charged yet, but it seems that they're just gathering more evidence. So I think this is just an amazing story because death committed by the highest levels of the executive do not happen every day.
Well, we mentioned that before with Tommy Soato and the Chief Justice of the country that was apparently murdered, and he was put in jail for it. But crazy things happen. He's the son of the former president of Indonesia.
I wish I knew more about that case. I don't really know much.
I guess we could find out. But
is Belvedere here or no?
We'll probably end up, in a shallow grave as well.
Please, but, you're supposed to save me from that. You're the guy with all the connections. I'm just a stupid librarian.
Well, it doesn't seem like Belvedere is joining us. So,
because I want to talk about his favorite subject. So this is just posted today. Ghislaine Maxwell. Everybody knows her as Jeffrey Epstein's former girlfriend and accused sex trafficker, pedophile, mastermind, and general all-around depraved human being. Her attorneys...
Or possibly the victim of a witch hunt.
Definitely not. But as you say, anything's possible. There's only thousands of witnesses, but, whatever.
No, they're all paid off, aren't they?
Well...
they will be getting a cut. They will be getting a cut of the prize.
Well, I would hope so. Because if you have been sexually trafficked for 10 years of your life, you probably deserve...
miserable lives.
Oh, by the way, I was looking up what you said before about getting paid handsomely. They weren't. The average woman got $200 per massage.
Jesus.
I mean, it's $6 here, but... to be basically sexually assaulted for $200 per event is not what I would... I mean, geez, what we talked about before, you get more money from the welfare for coronavirus. 3 times as much in America. So anyway,
So what happened?
Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyers filed in court today that they, quote, learned critical new information, unquote, that impacts her criminal case and a civil case where dozens of documents are expected to be released. Her attorneys have asked that the documents, including depositions, so either her under sworn testimony answering questions or the victim's under sworn testimony giving accusations, remain sealed for 3 more weeks as they work with prosecutors to see if they can share the information with the court. The filing did not provide details about the new information, shocking, because the information is probably horrible for their case. That's why they're doing this, saying that Maxwell's attorneys weren't at liberty to disclose it because it's subject to court protective order in their criminal case. Let me translate that for you. It's bad for them because if it was good for them, they would not release it legally, but they would clearly leak it to the media or leak it in some way. That's what these lawyers do. They play cases out in public. That's why O.J. Simpson got not guilty. And so they're having conversations with the U.S. Attorney's Office to modify the protection order so they could share the information. Now, you could read this and also say, well, they're worried about her well-being, which they very well may be. But it seems to me that this critical new information is information that is either very indicative of her guilt, or if
it's too hot for the government to handle,
or they're saying they have threats on her life, which I highly doubt. They have official proof of it. The former British socialite is being held in a New York jail. So
still, she's been there for a while, right?
Good. She's been there since July. Since July. And she's going to be there, hopefully alive, for the next 11 months until this case goes to trial next summer.
Next summer? Is that for
that's
prime
the
time
plan.
viewing or something?
That's the I mean,
network's going to be making a lot of money out of it. Lawyers are going to be making a lot of money.
Oh, well. I mean, listen.
The girls will be making a lot of money.
How are the girls going to be making money other than civil court resolution that they deserve because they were victims of child trafficking? They're not, like, making money, like, selling, like, pictures or anything like that.
Child trafficking. I don't know. It depends what you
just so you know, this goes against every argument that you make.
Yep.
Is that just to be clear.
I'm glad.
No, just to be clear. She has been accused of trafficking children as low as the age of 14 at the time of the crime. So that's not legal anywhere. Whether you want to call it 17, 18, you call them young women, okay. They're still probably held against their will. But there is an accusation of 14 years old.
How about if they're lying about their age?
Listen, now you're just being silly.
No.
So
they could have had a false passport.
The accusation helped recruit, groom, and ultimately sexually abuse minors as young as 15. And let's remind each other, everybody, Ghislaine Maxwell was at Hillary Clinton's wedding. And Donald Trump, when we played the clip last week, he said, she's a friend of mine.
Yeah.
So we have a problem with the world where 2 of the last 4 presidents of the United States were best friends with 2 of the biggest pedophile sex traffickers, at least that we know publicly, in history. So nice job, America. You're really cleaning up that swamp. We're putting our trust in people that are 1 degree away from Jeffrey Epstein. And say what you want to say about George Bush. He is worse president than Donald Trump. I don't care what anybody says, but he was not involved in this. He doesn't even seem like a sexual guy. Neither does Obama.
That's probably been his problem. Yeah.
Obama and Bush just don't seem like
the dudes that would get in bed with anyone.
They don't seem like sexually energized dudes.
Yeah. Well, they have to deal with their wives, I guess, and they're pretty hardcore, aren't they?
His wife, George Bush's wife, was a librarian and killed her best friend in a car accident, and Obama's wife is just the epitome of class and beauty. Okay. She has a podcast. I heard that they have more listeners than us.
I couldn't believe that.
Michelle, we're coming for you. Call me.
Wasn't she going to be running for president?
No, she hates politics, but I tell you what, they should pick her. Joe Biden's vice presidential pick is coming any day now. It could be literally right now. I have some bets on who it's going to be, who I hope it's going to be. I think I have a bet on Kamala Harris being the next president of the United States. So he picks her, Joe Biden dies or is pulled off the ticket, and then Kamala Harris becomes president between now and the election. But I also have money on Jennifer Whitmer, Gretchen Whitmer, the female white governor of Michigan. And I think she probably not going to get picked. I think it has to be an African American at this point. If Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is African American. Susan Rice is one person they're thinking about picking, who is would be an absolute disaster. She was national security advisor for Barack Obama, and she's an incredible liar and just terrible person, just completely lies all the time.
Rice.
And I don't like her as a choice. I think that would give Trump a huge argument that the Democrats are corrupt, and I think it would be valid. But if they picked Michelle Obama, Joe Biden could take a nap for the next 4 months, and he'd win the election. If he picks Michelle Obama, which he won't because she doesn't want to do it, it would be game over. It would be 400 electoral votes to 100, and it would be over. But he's not. If he picks a white person, and this could all be completely irrelevant by the time this replay goes on, because it's going to be any day now. If he picks a white person, I could see Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is kind of good at marketing. Getting rid of Mike Pence, the evangelical Christian vice president, creationist psychopath that he has now, and picking a black conservative, which would be very interesting. I think most African American voters would not vote for him because they know that they're
like that young lady. What's her name?
Owens? She's
Owens.
Candace Owens.
Your favorite?
You're going to get me started on Candace Owens. Here's my impression of Candace Owens. Like. Go listen to her on Joe Rogan and just listen for any 2-minute session. She says like 50 effing times.
I like her. I like what she says sometimes.
She's a moron.
Okay.
She's nice to look at.
We'll leave it at that.
Yes.
So, anyway, it's just about the end of the show, I think. We've been running down the top albums over 2020. 2020's been an interesting year in many ways. And
the Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl, so it technically is the best year of all time. Everyone else thinks it sucks.
When was that?
That was on February 3rd.
Oh, okay. Well, that was before everything happened.
Thank God we got the Super Bowl played before the
It wouldn't be on. What's happening with the football and that?
Training camp is going on, man. Like they're testing. There's 70 players that have opted out, including 3 players on my favorite team, and they are basically you get a $150,000 stipend that you have to pay back next year. But if you opt out, you stay on the roster. You're exempted. And training camp starts this week, and allegedly the plan is to play with fans.
When?
First week of September is opening weekend, I believe.
Well, gee, that's not far away.
No, and I got charged today by the NFL for my package that I watched it online, $164. So I didn't.
Jesus.
No, that's worth it. It's worth it. I watch every game.
But yeah.
But I mean, they charged me for
it,
right? Game. And you can guarantee getting that refund is going to like getting refund from Air Asia, which I'm still awaiting. I'm on week 25 Air Asia.
I got it.
From what flight?
From a flight in March. I was going to fly down to Perth, and it all got cancelled.
Mine didn't get cancelled. I was allowed to cancel domestic Indonesia. I was going to Jakarta March 13th. Still waiting. Wow. And their customer service is very nice on Twitter, but they're nice at telling you to happily go away.
I found them very difficult to contact. At all.
The only way you can contact them is through Twitter. They do not have a call center other than India. That's the only country that they have a call center. It's very...
And let's not start about India. I've had some app issues recently.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
What?
We won't go there.
Okay.
Well, just blindly ripped off if I didn't have anything, any leverage on them. But anyway, there we are.
I got ripped off, too.
Yeah, so... Australian rules football is also an interesting one. They're playing
my friend,
the whole season in 1 month.
And fans
every night.
Fans in the stands. And there's a lot of my friend Joe who lives in America on the West Coast. The games are on for him starting at night, and then the day games that are in Australia. And he's loving it. He's taken the over. I watched who did I watch? West Coast versus Carlton. I have no idea what's going on.
Sunday.
Yeah, I called you. I called you.
I was tuning in the radio. I didn't.
No, it's cool. He won the bet 101.5 over. So his thing now is just betting the over because he's so bored and he's been, being responsible and staying home. But he's making some loot. Give me a loot.
Well, West Coast is a hard team to beat at the moment.
Well, they were down by, who cares? They were down by 20 and then they just came back and scored like 50 points in a row. I'm like, this
all they have to do is just, was that the first game you watched?
First game I watched, where I didn't focus on my drink.
Well, I think we should sit down and watch it together.
Sundays, no, that's the thing. No, Sunday's now the thing. He's watching Saturday night, and we watch Sunday afternoon. That's the thing.
Okay. I was down on the beautiful Padma Beach this Sunday. So
you can bring your dogs to the bar, by the way.
Well, I also had a friend to go with me, so it's pretty difficult. Anyway.
What?
Yeah, I know, right? Anyway, we're going out with the all-time feminist indie rocker herself.
Fiona Apple. This album this is the #1 rated 2020 album thus far from Pitchfork Media. Fiona Apple fetched the bolt cutters. This album was recorded by herself at her home during the very first stages of quarantine, released April 17, 2020. You let me listen to this one. I loved it. I only got to the first 6 songs. Every single song was good. The first one we're going to play. Have
you heard much Fiona Apple
I'm a fan.
the years?
You know what? I remember when she first came out, like in 98, whatever,
yeah.
And I loved it. Then I kind of fell off with her, but I went down a rabbit hole on Apple Music because it's very easy to find her playlists and her albums, very easy. And I've realized how much I missed her. She had an album that came out. Her last album was 2012. It's called The Idler Wheel. It sold 220,000 copies, like a complete dud. But I was listening to some songs on her other albums. Her first album title, she sold 2.9 million records. Her second one called
Back when people were actually buying them.
July 23rd, 1996. The Pawn came out November 9, 1999. 922,000 copies, platinum across the world. The next album, Extraordinary Machine, 1 million, and then The Idler Wheel, 200,000. But this next one has sold between about 100,000, but that's different. It's digital download, streaming. But there were some songs that I had not heard from her before, and I was listening to them. A couple songs. Yeah, I
have a story, but
really good stuff, man. She's talented. People need to go back and listen to her. Go ahead.
Fiona Apple, and remember this thing called ICQ?
No.
In the initial stages of internet.
Okay.
Right, this is back in the late 90s and late 90s. And I was on this ICQ and I met this, girl from Hong Kong, I think it was. And she turned me on to Fiona Apple, and I thought, yeah, cool. And it was a bit like what you were saying the other day with PJ Harvey, with the trying to be cool, just because it's cool.
Right.
That's the way I felt about it a bit, man. But she's got a she's got a really interesting voice, right?
Dude, she's so talented. I don't generally like just piano and singing, but I went down a rabbit hole. A couple songs with something with the title Red. This other one she was like doing like a Broadway dance with these dudes. I think called Get Him Back. I recommend that one. But this one that we're going to play, I believe this is the single called I Want You to Love Me. And the first half of the song is incredible. It kind of goes downhill near the end. But this was the first song of the first album I listened to last week. And I was like, if they're all like this, this is great. So
anyway, we're gonna sign off with this one as well. So see you next Tuesday.